And we're back, everybody. Today's video is going to be part one of a two-part video series we're going to do about repackaging foods for longer-term storage. Today's video we're going to highlight vacuum sealing and the different ways that we can do that. We're also going to talk about some warnings and pitfalls that you need to be aware of when using these machines. Let's get started. If you're going to repackage foods for longer-term storage, there are 6 enemies that you need to know about. The first of these is going to be moisture. Any slight amount of moisture will cause mold and bacteria to form and thrive, resulting in spoiled food. Temperature is another big problem when we talk about food storage. I know that people often read in emergency food storage companies that their products are good for 20, 30 years and so forth. But I think it's important that you're aware that those estimates are based on the ideal storage conditions. Temperature is one of the problems that I see people misjudge most often. They'll put food out in their garage or out in the shed and just wherever they can stick it. And the problem with that is if you're putting your food in a very high heat environment, it's not going to last as long as you anticipate or are hoping it will. You can repackage these foods like this, but you're going to need to think about where you're storing them, and hopefully you're putting them somewhere in a climate controlled environment like the inside of your home. Light is another problem with food storage. Light exposure, like we're talking about today, we're going to be packaging and sealing up in some jars and bags. That's going to remove the oxygen from the food's environment, but it's also not going to block light from getting to it, so you'll have to address that as well. Or do like I do with these products. I don't package these things for 20-year storage. Most of these foods that I package in this way, I'd be happy if I get 5 to 7 years out of them, and usually I'm going to rotate through these things before we even reach that date to begin with. Our fourth element that we have to deal with in our food storage is oxygen. Oxygen can cause foods to degrade and spoil just by its presence, as well as causing dangerous organisms to thrive. They can also spoil your food. Number 5 is rodents or pests. Putting them in glass jars and things like this typically solves most of that problem. If you're going to use these plastic bags, oftentimes people will seal these things up, put them in a plastic tote or in a bucket or something like that that would keep mice and other problems from getting to your food. And lastly is time. Over time, food is going to degrade. Not everything can be vacuum sealed. There are some foods that are high in moisture content that by putting them in one of these bags or jars, sucking the oxygen out of there, but leaving that moisture present in the food will cause spoilage and cause problems. So do your research, know what you're doing when you're packaging these things and sealing them up, and that way you'll ensure that you and your family have safe food to eat when you need it. There are some pathogens like botulism and listeria that actually thrive and will produce toxins in an anaerobic environment, anaerobic meaning no oxygen. So we need to know what we're packaging, and we need to know and do our research about what foods we can safely vacuum seal up. Do your own research on this. Be sure that you know what you're doing. A simple can of canning jars, when you can find them these days, are relatively affordable. They come with the bands and the lids all ready to go. Here's some basic dried potato flakes that cost a couple of bucks for a box at the grocery store. And they're not going to last forever in just a cardboard box. But by repackaging them this way, we can take a product like this that is literally just potato flakes in a box with no other protection involved. And we're going to fill up our jars here with these things. It does save money doing it this way versus buying all the freeze-dried and number 10 can type stuff that is sold by these companies that are making a lot of profit off this stuff these days. If you watched our peanut butter powder review, we opened up this number 10 can that day to do that review. However, we're left with a number 10 can that's still at least half full or a little bit better. Probably not going to use this product that fast, so this is a good time to put the vacuum sealer to work. I'm just going to repackage this powder into some jars, and by doing this we'll be able to extend the shelf life on this greatly from just being in a number 10 can with a plastic lid on it. This product, the way it was packaged, only has about a 5-year shelf life on it. And that's simply because peanuts or ground peanuts have an oil and a fat content in them. So the same thing applies in the vacuum sealing jars. This product is not going to have the same shelf life that, say, mashed potato flakes will, which is just a very dry product with no moisture or fat in it at all. That's something to be aware of when you're packaging these foods. Not everything's going to have the same shelf life across the board. Additionally, in this case, I think I will use an oxygen absorber in the peanut butter powder, but not the potato flake. Okay, I mentioned I was going to place oxygen absorbers in the peanut butter powder. When I open up this pack, which is obviously the oxygen has been sucked out of it, it's holding these things. I'm going to open this up, put a couple of these in the jars, but then I'm going to quickly take the remaining oxygen absorbers and put them in a sealed bag and vacuum seal them on the machine so that they'll be good for next time. Okay, now our oxygen absorbers are going to be ready to go next time we need them. Okay, before we vacuum seal, I'm just going to wipe around the rim with a moistened towel. Make sure there's no dust or debris that would affect the seal on this lid. For this operation here, we just place the lid with the rubber seal on there. Place that on there, we're going to push our device right over the top of that. We snap in that piece there and we hit the accessory switch on it and we'll let it suck out the air. Okay, when it's completed, you can pop that off and we'll slide this off without pulling that lid off. Now you can see that this lid is concave. It's been pulled in by the vacuum that's created and you can't easily pull it off. You'd have to really give some tension on that to get it to break the seal. You can go ahead and place the band on there. It doesn't have to be ridiculously tight, but you can just screw it down on there and now you've got some product that will last for a good long time versus the way it was packaged in the store. I don't know that it's as problematic doing it in jars as it is in bags, but when you're doing a fine powder like our peanut butter powder, I'm going to go ahead and cut out a couple of donuts out of some simple coffee filters and place them on top of the jar and put the lid on there, and that'll help prevent powder from being sucked up into the machine. I think following that simple step is just little things that you can do to help prolong the life of your equipment. Peanut butter powder. Okay, our case is complete. Everything's sealed up. Put the lid on there, give it a little tightening, and there you go. In just a little bit of time, we've been able to repackage rice, dried pinto beans, some potato flakes, and some peanut butter powder. And look at what we've accomplished with just a simple machine and some dried goods. There's also an easier way to extend the life span of even just dried beans that you buy in bags at the grocery store using this machine. What I like to do is take some scissors and cut a little just a little nick in the bag to let air out. Okay, in this case, I'm going to put one bag of beans with a cut in it as I described, and I think I'll just fill up around it with this other oddball sized bag. Let the machine evacuate the oxygen out of the bag. It'll heat seal it and just let it do its job. When it releases, you'll hear it. Now we have black beans that are sealed up, and those will last for many, many, many years packaged up that way. And there you go. We've got some rice sealed up in a pouch. We've got some beans sealed up in a pouch. You can do this all day long. Remember, going back to our list of the 6 problems with food storage, we've gotten rid of the oxygen, but now we also have to deal with the light and rodent problems of these things. Of course, you have to deal with temperature where you store this stuff. So you can simply buy a 5-gallon bucket, and put all these pouches in there and make it up that way, or a plastic storage tote, and you could store a lot of food without a lot of cost. Hey, thanks for watching today's video. We talked about in the beginning of this video that this was going to be one of a two-part series that we're going to do, and I did that on purpose. I think that making this all in one video would make it so long that it kind of goes beyond the span that most people want to sit and watch a YouTube video, in my opinion. One side note that I want to make that I have noticed there's some confusion about is you cannot use a vacuum sealer on canning jars for jams, vegetables, or other things that you might want to can. Foods like that require the hot water bath or pressure canning methods, and that's an entirely different video altogether. However, I just wanted to make that known that that does not work for those kinds of foods. This is simply a way for you to package and seal dry goods to extend their shelf life only. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below if you appreciate the content that we provided in today's video. And as always, remember, get ready so that you and your family can succeed and thrive.
Hi.
How are you?